Good day, everyone. I'm Almajir M. Ulo, your presenter for today in PhD 300 with the description of Advanced Educational Research, under with our facilitator, Dr. Benjir Ariola. So now this is my third presentation about the policy analysis and evaluation. So first, let's identify what is policy evaluation. So in educational administration is a systematic and rigorous process used to assess the effectiveness, impact, and unintended consequences of educational policies. So definitely it's a crucial part of the policy cycle, so helping to ensure that educational policies are effective, efficient, and equitable. Now, let's have a designing and conducting policy evaluation in educational administration. So it is a crucial process for ensuring that educational policies are effective, efficient, and equitable. So it involves a systematic and rigorous approach to assess the effectiveness, impact, and unintended consequences of educational policies. Now, so these are the key steps and considerations. So number one, we have to define the evaluation question. So clearly articulate the research question that the evaluation aims to answer. So this should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound or SMART. So for example, does the implementation of new literacy program improve student reading comprehension scores in low-income schools? Okay, next, we have also to identify the policy and its objectives. So clearly define the policy being evaluated, including its intended goals, target population, and implementation strategies. So this helps establish a framework for assessing the policy's effectiveness. So for instance, if the policy is a new teacher training program, you need to understand its goals. So improving teacher effectiveness in specific subject areas, the targeted teachers, example, the new teachers in specific grade levels, and how the training is delivered, whether it's online, modules, or workshops, or mentoring. Next, select an evaluation design. So you should choose an appropriate evaluation design based on the research question, available resources, and ethical considerations. Common designs include experimental design, randomly assigns participants to treatment and control groups, allowing for causal inferences. This is the gold standard for establishing causality, but may not always be feasible in educational settings. Next, we have quasi-experimental design. So uses existing groups or non-random assignment, making it more challenging to establish causality. This is a common approach in educational policy evaluation, as it often involves working with existing schools or districts. And we have also the qualitative design, or focuses on understanding the live experiences, perspectives, and contextual factors related to the policy. This can provide rich insights into how the policy is implemented and perceived by stakeholders. Next, the last one we have. Next we have to develop data collection methods. So we have select appropriate data collection methods to gather relevant information about the policy's impact. We have quantitative data, the standardized tests, surveys, attendance records, and other numerical data. Qualitative data, interviews, focus groups, observations, and document analysis. Number 5, establish data analysis methods. So choose appropriate statistical or qualitative analysis techniques to analyze the collected data and answer the evaluation question. So this may involve statistical analysis, the t-test, ANOVA, regression analysis, and etc. So for quantitative data, so these methods can be used to determine if there are statistically significant differences in outcomes between groups or over time. Next, the thematic analysis. So identifying patterns, themes, and insights from qualitative data. So this involves coding and categorizing data to identify key themes and strengths. Number 6, we have also to consider ethical considerations. So ensure the evaluation process adheres to ethical guidance for research involving human subjects, including informed consent, confidentiality, and data security. This is particularly important when working with students, teachers, and other individuals involved in the policy implementation. Number 7, implement the evaluation plan. So execute the carefully designed evaluation plan, collecting data according to the chosen methods and timeline. This involves putting the plan into action, ensuring that the data is collected systematically and consistently. Number 8, ensure data quality. So maintain data integrity, accuracy, and completeness throughout the collection and analysis process. This involves ensuring that data is collected correctly, stored securely, and analyzed appropriately. And then, number 9, we have you had to analyze the data. So you have to employ the chosen statistical or qualitative analysis techniques to analyze the collected data and draw conclusions about the policy's impact. This involves using the appropriate methods to interpret the data and identify patterns and relationships. Now let's interpret the findings. So analyze the results in the context of the evaluation question, policy objectives, and relevant literature. And the last one, you have to disseminate results. So why disseminate results? So that you can communicate the evaluation findings to stakeholders, including policymakers, educators, researchers, and the public in a clear, concise, and accessible manner. Okay, now let's proceed to the considerations for policy evaluation in education. So context. Consider the specific context of the policy, including the target population, school system, and broader societal factors. This helps to ensure that the evaluation is relevant to specific situation. So implementation fidelity. Assess the extent to which the policy was implemented as intended, as variations in implementation can affect outcomes. This involves checking whether the policy was implemented consistently and according to the original plan. Next, it has a long-term impact. So evaluate the policy's long-term effects, as short-term impacts may not affect the full picture. Next, we have unintended consequences. So identify any unintended positive or negative consequences of the policy. This involves looking for any unexpected outcomes that may have resulted from the policy for implementation. So next, you have also to include the stakeholder involvement, because engaging them throughout the evaluation process, including policymakers, educators, students, and parents. This helps to ensure that the evaluation is relevant to the needs and perspective of those involved. So for the conclusion of the policy evaluation, so designing and conducting policy evaluation in education is a crucial process for ensuring that educational policies are effective, efficient, and equitable. So by following a systematic and rigorous approach, researchers can provide valuable insights to policymakers and educators to inform decision making, improve educational outcomes, and enhance the lives of students. Okay, now let's proceed to cost-benefit analysis. So what do you mean by cost-benefit analysis? In educational administration, it is a systematic process used to evaluate the economic feasibility and value of educational programs, policies, or projects. It involves comparing the cost of an intervention with the benefits it generates, aiming to determine if the benefits outweigh the cost. So here are the aspects of cost-benefit analysis in educational administration. Number one, we should identify the costs and benefits. So the cost, this includes all expenses associated with the intervention, such as the direct costs, the teacher salaries, materials, facilities, and program development. Indirect costs, the administrative overhead, opportunity cost of resources diverted from other programs, and potential negative formalities. Disruption to existing programs. The benefits, this encompasses the positive outcomes generated by the intervention, including tangible benefits and intangible benefits. Tangible benefits includes increased student test scores, higher graduation rates, improved job prospects, and increased earnings. So for intangible benefits, enhanced quality of life, reduced crime rates, increased civic engagement, and improved social cohesion. Okay, number two, quantifying costs and benefits, monetary values, time value of money, comparing. Number three, comparing costs and benefits, the net present value, the benefit cost ratio. Number four, applications in educational administration. We have program evaluation, policy decision making, resource allocation. For program evaluation, it can be used to evaluate the effectiveness and efficiency of educational programs, such as new curriculum initiatives or teacher training programs. For policy decision making, help policymakers decide whether to invest in specific educational policies such as school constructions, projects, or early childhood education program. And lastly, the resource allocation inform research allocation decisions, helping administrators prioritize programs and projects that offer the greatest return on investment. Okay, now what are the challenges and limitations to this? So we have quantifying intangible benefits. Assigning monetary values to intangible benefits can be subjective and difficult. Assumptions and uncertainties relies on assumptions about future costs, benefits, and discount rates, which can introduce uncertainty into the analysis. And the last one, the ethical considerations, focuses on economic efficiency, but it might not fully capture the ethical and social implications of educational interventions. So for conclusion, the cost-benefit analysis is a valuable tool for educational administrators seeking to make informed decisions about resource allocation and policy development. So now, let's have using statistical methods to measure program effectiveness is essential for understanding whether a program is achieving its intended goals and making a real difference. Okay, number one, defining program objectives and outcomes. Okay, we should have clear goals and measurable indicators. Number two, choosing appropriate statistical methods, whether it is descriptive statistics, inferential statistics, the t-test, ANOVA, regression analysis. And it should have a data collection and analysis. So, data collection methods. Choose appropriate data collection methods that align with your research question and measurable indicators. This might involve the surveys, standardized tests, administrative data, interviews, data analysis, calculating descriptive statistic, conducting hypothetical tests, and interpreting the results. Number 4, reporting and communicating findings. Clear and concise. It should be clear and concise, addressing limitation, acknowledge any limitation of your study such as sample size, data quality, or potential biases. And lastly, it should have our recommendations based on your findings, provide recommendation for improving the program or for future research. Okay, imagine a program designed to improve math skills for middle school students. So here's how statistical methods could be used to evaluate its effectiveness. So your objectives is to improve students' math scores on standardized tests, increase confidence in math, and reduce math anxiety. So what are your indicators? So in standardized math test scores, student self-reported confidence in math and student self-reported math anxiety levels. So the data collection, administer standardized math tests before and after the program, conduct surveys to assess student confidence and anxiety levels, and gather data on student attendance and participation. So what are your statistical methods? Use t-test to compare pre and post-test scores, calculate descriptive statistics for confidence and anxiety levels, and potentially conduct regression analysis to examine the relationship between program participation and outcomes. Lastly, reporting. Present the findings in a report that includes tables, graphs, and discussion of the results, limitations, and recommendations. So in conclusion, by employing statistical methods, program evaluators can provide valuable evidence-based insights into the effectiveness of programs, leading to improved program design, implementation, and ultimately better outcomes for participants. So that's it for my presentation. Thank you for listening.